What's going on, guys? Welcome back to High Top Sports Georgia. Got a lot to talk about as the Dogs are about to face off against the Wildcats. This show is brought to you by BetUS. Have my dog insider here, Mr. Jack Mack, to talk all things Georgia Bulldogs as they prep for the Wildcats, and then a bye week, and then, of course, Alabama. But we're going to talk about the Wildcats first, and Mr. Brock Vandergrift. Talk to me, Jack. How are you feeling about next or this week and coming up?
Feeling good. Obviously, Brock, former Dog, coming off a very difficult performance. His offensive line seemed to have a protest against blocking for him. But yeah, I love Brock. Obviously, tough going against him this week, but I think the Dogs will come out on top. My saying with these NIL departures is the grass isn't always greener. I always think there's a reason. It's kind of a mutual decision when guys go elsewhere. But
Sure.
that's just me. The only guy that I think that is outside of that rule is AD Mitchell going to Texas. He has been productive. Other than that, usually there's some type of drop off. But yeah, excited for this week.
Yeah, you got the Kentucky Wildcats, and you talked a little bit about the future or the past with the Dogs in Kentucky. They are favored right now by 24, and I think there was a little bit of a running joke last year where the Dogs had a hard time covering these games, and they kind of got flack for it. Not that Kirby cared, but Vegas and us betting on the game, it kind of got a little wishy-washy on the cover here. Where do you feel Georgia does on this weekend?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, historically, they're in their last 9 games, they're 1-8 against the spread before the bye. Kirby likes to rest players, guys like Mikael Williams, who's coming off an injury. Maybe let him rest a little bit for Bama in a couple weeks. Him, Warren Brinson, defensive line, guys like that might sit. So I am. That's a big number on the road in the SEC first road game. Yeah, it's a tough spot, and history doesn't agree with Kirby. Before the bye week.
That is funny to think that get 1-8 going back. I love those little statistics, especially when it comes to the odds and making bets again. Not that Kirby cares about those things, but this show is brought to you by BetUS. And if you want to take advantage of any opportunity on betus.com, use the code YouTube150. You get back 150% on your first 2 deposits, then 125 on your third deposit, up to $2,000. And of course, the spread this weekend is 24. And when it comes to betting, you use odds, you use those numbers. 1-8 in the last 9 games before the bye should tell you a little something. Although Kentucky had a hard time, they were favored by 10 last week against the Cox and got absolutely buried.
Yeah, again, I don't think anyone expected that score. But when it comes to Georgia in the history of this game, they've had some issues. I mean, 2 years ago when they had one of the most potent offenses ever were Stetson Bennett when they won that second national championship. They struggled to beat Kentucky 16-6, and then 2 years before that it was 14-3. So something about going to Lexington, I feel like there's always bad weather there. It's just a grimy game, run the football type of thing. So I expect more of that. If I like the under. I think this is going to be an under game all day long. Georgia's defense is going to suffocate them, and I expect them to kind of take the air out of the ball, run the football in the second half. So I like the under.
You had Trevor Etienne in the last game. We got a glimpse of him looking very explosive as a Gator fan. That was hard to watch, and I think that's going to be somebody that we see really explode in this game against Kentucky. Speaking of this running back room, I mean, you sent me the notes, the talk notes before the show, and you got a big claim here about this running back room. But look, it's not. Nate Frazier looked exceptional week 1 against Clemson. Then we know what Trevor Etienne and what he did at Florida. I think there's high expectations for him going into this season. Tell the people what you said about this running back room for the Georgia Bulldogs.
I mean, top to bottom. I mean, you got ETN. He is a little bit older, but he, as you can see, has got some juice. I mean, watching the Tennessee Tech game, I know it's Tennessee Tech, but he had about 10 guys in open field. No one came close to touching the dude. So, I mean, he's special. And then, the young guys coming up is who I'm really excited about. Yeah. So, Nate Frazier, Branson Robinson, I think they have the potential to be the best running back room since Chubb and Michelle. I've seen, like you said, Nate Frazier in week 1. Those jump cuts in between the holes reminds me of little DeAndre Swift back in the day. Nothing prettier than having some dudes in the Georgia backfield. That's right. I mean, Georgia just always has somebody back there, and it seems like it's been a little bit, no shade on Kendall Milton, Zamir White, but just missing a little bit of explosiveness over the last couple of years. And I think we're going to get that here, and especially over the next couple of years when they get a little bit older.
Milton and Zamir White, obviously a pro in the NFL now. Those guys, no slouch, like you said, but they just don't pack the punch like those other names that we were, Michelle, Todd, I was a big Todd Gurley fan, loved him in the NFL as well. This back kind of looks like it has the potential to carry that oomph back. And look, not that Georgia's really needed it. You guys have excelled everywhere else, especially on defense. But by golly, you get that the dogs in the backfield again. That all of a sudden all things start circulating. And like you said, ETN was exploding out of a cannon in week 2.
He was, and expect him to continue to grow on that. Probably limited carries again, going back to the week before the bye. I feel like Kirby's probably going to spread the load. ETN, Robinson, all these guys are going to get some touches. But yeah, ETN, it seems like I just hope he stays healthy, and that's all we need.
Yeah, 2 weeks you got Alabama, and I think you don't want to show too much against Kentucky. Against Kentucky, and I don't think you'll have to, as we from what we saw last week. Let's talk about this game. Some things that you're concerned about going into just the next few weeks, right? Your biggest focus, and then of
Yeah.
course the 2 week jump. I know you got a little thing for the Alabama, as you will be at that game.
Yes, I will be there. It's going to be a big one. But first with Kentucky, as Georgia, Kirby, we take one step at a time. Never look ahead. So Kentucky this week, I expect us to be fine. Again, some of these guys not playing. The defensive line is worrisome. I mean, if you remember last year in the SEC championship game, Jalen Milroe was running crazy. I mean, we had a spy on him. Everything we can do could not corral the dude. So, to me, that is what Georgia needs. I mean, we need to get back to having some pressure in the backfield. It's been a couple years since Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and it seems like we're set with Stackhouse and Warren Bridgeton, which are very good pieces. I just think I mean, they need to take a step this year, causing disruption to really, um, you know, help us contain Miller. That's what I'm concerned about. Our defensive line needs to get in the backfield, so our DBs aren't, you know, running with chasing Milton when they're covering, and it just gets chaotic quickly. So we just need pressure in the backfield. Brinson, like I said, is going to be out this week. I expect to be ready for Alabama. But on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line is good. I mean, they're returning a lot of starters. They're very big, one of the biggest offensive lines in the country. But they're a little bit slow. I mean, against Tennessee Tech, Ernest Green on the left side, I mean, he had 2 or 3 speed rushes, um, and he had no chance to got right to Carson Beck. So I mean, once we get an SEC play, that's got to change. He's got to looks a little bit heavy, honestly. Maybe do some more, some conditioning, get back into shape, type of thing. But I know he's good. He just needs need a couple more weeks of conditioning. The offensive line still gelling together. Guys like Dylan Fairchild, he has been a monster. So a couple more weeks with the offensive line, they'll gel together, and I think we'll be good for Alabama. Again, just a little bit sluggish against Tennessee Tech, and I understand sometimes hard to get these guys up for these games, but and it's nitpicking, but Georgia has got to improve in the trenches, to compete with these Alabamas and really solidify themselves. Because yeah,
Texas too.
once we go to
Don't
Alabama,
sleep on that Texas team.
Texas too. Texas too. They manhandled Michigan. You're right. You're right. Um, but yeah, going to Alabama, as Shelton said, I'm going to go. I got a treat for these Tuscaloosa fans. I got an industrial pack of tissues. Me and my buddy bought, hand them out before the game because it is going to be the coronation. As you can see, my bulldog back there with the crown. It's going to be official on at as you can think, once Alabama loses the Iron Bowl, they have those shots of the Alabama fans, tears in the stands. There's going to be a lot of that, I expect. So I'm going to become prepared, hand them out, be a good, you know, visitor to their Tuscaloosa town.
I
So
love
I
it.
look forward to it.
It's going to be a big game in 2 weeks. But again, this week, facing off against Kentucky, the start of the SEC path. I was talking just a few days ago on our main channel where it's kind of weird. These out non-conference games they carry value, but not as much anymore because you go into the conference play. All you need to worry about is making that conference championship because winning the conference championship gets you into the playoffs. Obviously, Georgia highly favored to win the SEC championship, just a little bit over Texas. But the road starts with the Kentucky, then Bama, then you got Texas, of course, Florida. But it's
Yeah.
the schedule is definitely a daunting one, more than what Georgia has faced in the past. Not like Mizzou has. Mizzou's got a pretty cake schedule, but the Dogs should bode very well. I know a lot of people have that Texas game. That's the circle game. I think Georgia handles Bama, but that's in 2 weeks. So let's take it 1 week at a time. But All in all, good stuff. Fantastic stuff here with Mr. Jack Mack, the Dog Insider. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe. This show is brought to you by BetUS. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.